Hey everybody, this is Kodak here, and we're doing a bit of a different kind of video this time around. This time I'm actually doing a couple of shoutouts for some of my Patreons who are busy working on their Kickstarters. So when I made this channel, it was mostly centered on, the games that everybody's heard of, Magic, Pokemon, stuff like that, but one thing that those videos were made to really help were members of the independent scene, people who were not attached to some kind of monster company and were instead developing their own thing to kind of shake up the formula. And I've actually been involved with Kickstarter games for a while. Yes, including the one that I later disowned and actually still have my card art on, and I have the receipts right here. Here it is, the original. I don't know, maybe I could do something with that, but I've been participating with Kickstarter stuff for a long time, and a lot of people have actually sent me their games, although I haven't reviewed all of them because, if you're like an independent brand and you send me a copy of your game and, I maybe don't think it's the best thing, I will let you opt out of getting a video review, and I've had a number of those happen. So, because let's be honest, if it's a game made by a major corporation with like millions of dollars to work with, where the CEOs make more money in a day than I make all year, then I'll gladly tear it to shreds. These are people who have, like they're paying millions of dollars to these people who are supposed to make the decisions, and they're making really, really bad ones. That's fair. If I applied that same scrutiny to stuff being made by independent developers, then I'd just be a huge bully, and I don't want to be that kind of bully. But I actually have been working on making a video about actually getting your game, up and out there and on Kickstarter and getting all that stuff to go. I've actually recorded a couple of interviews with some folks who have made games that managed to hit their Kickstarter goal. I've asked them, how they think they got there. I do want to do more. I'm reaching out to creators to see if they'd like to talk about their experiences. But a couple of things that I think I can say right out of the gate is that one of the biggest tricks to having a successful Kickstarter is to have an audience prepared in advance. You don't just throw your game on Kickstarter and hope for the best. No, you need to be getting out there on social media. You need to be doing Twitter and Instagram. You need to be building Discords. I've seen some people use YouTube and TikTok as well. Discords are a big one because that allows you to directly engage with your fan base. But a lot of these games that you see that hit their funding goal in minutes or hours or one day or something like that, they tend to do that by having a bunch of people primed and ready to go. And I know that can be kind of terrifying. That means getting your game out there. That means showing it to people. Believe me, if you're worried that people are going to steal your idea, that's probably not going to happen. It's frankly better to let your creation see the light of day and receive proper scrutiny than try to protect it as this perfect, precious little thing forever. Like I said in a previous video, make a mess, then clean it up. But that's the big one, is to have people in advance ready to go. Not every game needs to have a Kickstarter. There are games that go by the direct selling method. One of the benefits of Kickstarter is that it does get you out in public, and it is something you can show to a distributor. It's hey, my game got $100,000 backing on Kickstarter for its first print run. We were hoping to make some more stuff. This is how you talk to Ultra Pro and various distributors and stuff like that to really get your game going. Of course, the big question is, how do you get your game, out there? There are some blogospheres that are always hunting for trading card games. I honestly still feel that there is a hunger for new experiences that aren't Pokemon, aren't Yu-Gi-Oh!, aren't Magic the Gathering. I honestly think that there are people out there who still want something, great and new and amazing. So there's still, in my opinion, plenty of space for the card game, field to grow. I hesitate to call it a market because, that implies, all the negative stuff that's been happening with trading card games, people buying into it purely for the monetary value rather than the fun game. A neat trick that these guys, Gem Blenders, actually showed me is a way to get your game into conventions kind of on the cheap is to, if your local game store is going to go to a convention, is to, piggyback off of them. Say, hey, if you bring me along, I'll help with the packing and the moving, I'll help with the setup. Just let me have a little corner where I can demo my game, have, some ads and stuff like that. That's how Gem Blenders did it. They piggybacked on their game store and had a corner set up in that booth. And That's a pretty clever way of doing it, and they've actually come a long way. They're probably the first game that I'm going to be talking about today. They actually hit their Kickstarter goal in just a few hours, which, like I said, was thanks to their setup. And like I said, Gem Blenders, they sent me these a while ago. So what exactly is this game all about? Gem Blenders is a game I've featured on this channel before, and they sent me a copy of their now sold out beta edition back when I first opened my P.O. box a couple of years ago. It's a game with a different sort of energy mechanic where you get 4 heroes, 3 lane heroes, and a rear support hero. Oh yeah, I'm gonna be in this game by the way, though this is just a test print they made ages ago. The goal is to push damage down each of these lanes past the opposing heroes to defeat your opponent, with the rear hero acting as more of a support. To do this, your heroes must transform into blends, which they unlock by attaching different colored gems. A hero can equip a number of gems up to its level, and the blends themselves always require a combination of 2 to 5 different gems in order to work. Upon initially being sent Gem Blenders, I mostly criticized the lack of polish in their game's appearance and cards, and while they did push back against my critique initially, they eventually managed to greatly improve the game's look, adding polish while keeping their sort of lo-fi look and even discovering a hook for their game in the process.
With each passing turn, the field becomes more colorful.
The idea is that the hero cards are sort of a dull gray, but as they attach more and more colorful gem and blend cards, the field fills out in a rainbow of color. They've since been using their Patreon rewards to shop around the improved designs to their backers, and are leaning into them with the full release of the game, which again hit its goal in just a few minutes thanks to that pre-built audience I mentioned before. So yeah, it's kind of a fun little idea with a different take on a number of mechanics. While its 3-lane hero structure might sound eerily familiar, its character cards are permanent, its resource system is threshold based, and a lot of its depth comes from character placement and movement rather than pure power. It's neat. Okay, moving on. So Gem Blenders, their Kickstarter has already been out for a while, but it goes on for more than another month. I don't think it ends until May, sometime in early May. I think they set it up as the full 40-day thing. But they've already hit their goal. If you go and invest in them, you'll probably get what's back. Like I said, they've already printed cards, and they've improved a lot. Like I said, they were able to turn. I criticized how their cards kind of look like test prints, and they took that and they turned it into an advantage. So there's always a place where your game can polish and improve. Although the other game that we're looking at today, their Kickstarter, as of recording, has not started yet, but it is going to be starting soon, and they never sent me anything physical, so I guess I'll just have to go with the logo. Monster Crown is based on the retro-styled catch-em-up of the same name. Monster Crown is yet another game that takes a cynical view on the concept of Pokemon, which are honestly a dime a dozen at this point, but at least Monster Crown is earnest in its theming, unlike the meta-poisoned nightmare that is Nexomon Extinction, and I guess actually having a theme is preferable to all of the dry, pointless junk we keep getting on cell phones. Monster Crown is more of a dark mirror to the bright and happy world of Pokemon. The leadership in Monster Crown is often corrupt, the Pokemon Center costs money, and the Lapras are evil. Monster types are organized more by their idiom and personality rather than some kind of elemental type, and breeding is a huge part of the game, with each monster having random mutations based on what idiom they get bred from. You can even encounter these mutations in the wild and not know what you have until you get the game's monster dex. However, between the body horror, the random swearing, and the demonic imagery, I can't really recommend this for kids. Though if you do wind up getting the game, I'd pick Darwall as your starter because it's the starter that takes the longest to be able to reappear and be captured in the game. Still, there's a lot of exploration and things to find. Kind of an everything bagel with all sorts of secrets and storylines just tossed in with little structure. I mean, I was meaning to joke that Scarlet and Violet copied some stuff from these games, like the automatic battles and the replenishing item drops, but it looks like they copied some of the bad ideas from this game too. That said, Monster Crown is a small passion project, not a AAA title from a multi-billion-dollar franchise, and apparently they have a larger crew working on the sequel to hopefully give it some more direction. Maybe lean a bit more into the original game's implied themes of responsibility. Anyway, to tie into the sequel development, we have a card game. The Monster Crown card game is a game with 5 monster zones, and I know you're already making a comparison, so shut it! Starting from the center, each zone has a crown rating, starting at the center with 3 and dropping by 1 as you move outwards. These tie in with the monsters, which also have a crown rating. You can technically play a monster onto any space you like, but if at the end of the turn, the monster's crown rating is higher than the crown rating of the zone it is on, it gets demoted to the next lowest space, pushing everything else along with it. Now, a monster won't move if it's on a slot of its CR or higher, and those can only be demoted by losing a battle. Monsters have 3 stats: Strength, Magic, and Speed. When attacking, the attacker chooses whether to have a strength battle or a magic battle, and the defender can choose to evade once per turn if their speed is higher than the opponent's speed. The breeding mechanics are brought up in something called Gene Surge, where you can rest a monster in order to give one of their stats to another monster that is currently in battle, and there are boss monsters which have really high stats but slide twice as far if they're out of place on the CR scale. There are location cards that can modify a slot's CR rating for certain monster types, quests, NPCs, all sorts of things. Their Kickstarter starts on the 28th, so give them a look. The game already has a demo that you can try out on Tabletop Simulator. So yeah, both of those are actually members on my Patreon. Just $1 gets you access to Discord. We've been, a lot of people have been using my TTS Meetups channel to arrange and playtest games over things like Tabletop Simulator or Screentop? Yeah, Screentop.gg. And that's been a lot of fun. I'm hoping to host another game night really soon, between my birthday and all sorts of other things that have been going on. I haven't really had the chance to organize that, but I'm hoping to organize another one in the future. Although, we actually have another game I'd like to talk about today, and they wanted to join in and actually help sponsor the video, so let's take a look at Birthright. Birthright is a game with a number of big twists on familiar mechanics. It's a combat game with a shield system, in this case called Aegis, and you actually have a separate deck of Aegis that you shuffle up 7 of as your life points at the start of the game. Players alternate playing or invoking 1 card each turn, either a minion, augment, or charm card. There are no costs to these, and they don't even have to match the color of your leader card, though many of the cards of the same color synergize with each other, so that uniformity might be for the best. Now, the resource that does exist is called Ichor, and it's a value that ticks up once every single turn, not just your turn, so every time a turn passes, the Ichor count for both players goes up. Hitting a threshold on this Ichor count can cause cards to gain more abilities or become more powerful, meaning that the cards in your deck naturally ramp themselves up over time, and your leader card even gains the ability to play 2 cards a turn instead of 1 once that stat gets high enough. And while most games with a shield system use blocker cards to prevent attacks aimed at them, in this game, the shields are their own blockers. When an Aegis is attacked, it is first flipped face up and it fights its attacker like any normal monster. Highest number wins. This means that attacking an Aegis at first is a gamble. A lot of Aegis also have their own effects for as long as they stay in play, so getting rid of them can be important. You can't just rest on your laurels. Now, unlike the other games featured here, Birthright is available for sale right now. You can get the Fire and Grass decks individually, they'll soon be adding in a playmat, which you've seen on a couple of my videos, and they have an expansion planned for later this summer. Website in the description. Thanks for helping me out with this. And there you have it, a few games to look at on Kickstarter. I know Weird Warp over here is also looking to do a run, although they're actually going to be doing it through Indiegogo. These Spirits recently had another successful Kickstarter. They've had a couple of them. They had one that didn't do so well, but they've been getting back on that horse, as it were. I still think this is probably the best Yu-Gi-Oh! Alike we have ever seen. It's honestly a lot better. Clash of Deck is actually one that I backed. That was a fun one. And one called Alpha Clash is one that I, backed a tiny bit. We're going to see a little bit about them, and, maybe there's somebody else pretty interesting I got on one of the interviews. So look forward to that. I'm going to keep doing more research on that, on the Kickstarter side, on the publishing side, on getting that already good and done, talking to folks who have been there and done that and have managed to, get their product out the door, because I think that's what a lot of the people who have been using my videos for development are really wanting to do, is figure out how to make that next big extra step. And hopefully I can help you guys figure that out. I mean, maybe at this point I should, find a publisher and actually print off some of those cards I made for the Fakey Guard Game thing. That might be some interesting patron rewards. So yeah, that is a look at some good games, and until next time, this is Kodak signing off. Okie dokie, time to give some patron shoutouts, patrons who paid at the $10 and higher level. We have Spud May, who made Monster Crown, Cliclo, Weird Warp, Skeldrakis, Christopher P., Cody and Kaya, Danny, Van, and Johnny D2. Thanks again for your support, and even just $1 is enough to get you Discord access where we have been having game night and more. So, we also have our wonderful $5 patrons who are scrolling now. So, yes, this is Luigi. It's Luigi time. And until the next time, this is Luigi signing off.